Hey guys, it's David from Retrium. How's it going today? I am so excited to talk to you about one of my favorite topics regarding retrospectives, which is how to increase your engagement in the retrospective. So many times I'm talking to teams and they come to me, they say, I try to run these retrospectives and the teams just aren't that interested. The people who I need to be engaged, the team members, just don't care. They've checked out before we even start the retrospective. David, what can I do about that? So here I'm about to tell you 4 different ways to increase your team's engagement in the retrospective process. Number 1, change the facilitator. Whoa, everyone says to me when I first say that, it's my job. I'm the Scrum Master. I'm the Agile Coach. I'm the facilitator. Why would I change who's facilitating? There's a very simple reason why. And the reason is that when was the last time someone told you to do something and you immediately said, oh, okay, yes, sir, I'll go ahead and do that, right? Human instinct when someone says says, you must do this is to say, why? And if you don't see results right away, you might immediately then say, no, I'm not interested, right? Especially in a job when your boss says you have to do X and you don't think it's working, what do you want to do? You want to run away. So think about it from that perspective when you are a retrospective facilitator. If your retrospectives haven't been working recently and you as the Scrum Master, you as the Agile Coach are telling people you must run a retrospective, your team's going to run away. They're not going to be interested. So what does changing the facilitator do? It gives your team ownership over the retrospective again. So find someone on your team who's interested in learning the art of facilitation and ask them, hey, are you interested in running the retro next week? And maybe they'll say yes, hopefully they will. And if they do say yes, say, oh, great, I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to be in the retro. You guys figure out what you want to do as a team. It is up to you from the bottom up to figure out your retrospectives. So option number 1 to increase engagement is change the facilitator. Option number 2 is change the script. What do I mean by that? How do you run your retrospectives? Now, some of you vary what you're doing, some of you stick with the same thing, but the basic template for running a retrospective that I hear time and again when I'm talking to teams is 2 questions. What went well and what didn't go well? Teams go around the table, maybe they verbally explain what went well and what didn't go well. Maybe if they're good, they have sticky notes and they're putting them up on a board somewhere, what went well and what didn't go well. But the fact of the matter is, it kind of gets boring after a while, right? If you're running these retrospectives on an incremental and iterative basis like you should be, if you always use the same facilitation technique, it gets boring. People get bored. They check out because of that, even if the retrospective is effective. So what do you need to do? You need to change your approach. Find other techniques that might be interesting. There are whole books written about all of this with different technique ideas. Just to list a few: Mad, Sad, Glad, Start, Stop, Continue, 4 L's, which stands for liked, learned, lacked, and longed for. There's Lean Coffee. There's Sailboat. I could go on and on. There are so many ways of running an effective retrospective. Don't limit yourself to the same script again and again. Option number 3 to increase engagement: change the mentality. What is your mentality? Ask yourself, what's your mentality entering a retrospective? For most people, what they say when I ask that question is, we're trying to find the fix for the problem. If we identify problems that our team is experiencing, we're trying to find fixes for them. Here's the problem with that mentality. What if the fix fails? So you've identified problem X and you've found solution Y, and then you go back into your sprint and you're trying to implement solution Y, and then 2 weeks later you realize, you know what, that didn't actually fix anything at all. Man, that's frustrating. It can decrease engagement because you're expecting the retrospective to find solutions. Here's the thing: change your mentality. Don't expect your retrospectives to find solutions. Expect them to find experiments that you can use to find solutions. What do I mean by that? If you come up with an action item to try to fix a problem that your team is facing, don't phrase it as, Paul will be working on the following to fix the problem that we identified. Phrase it as an experiment. Say, Paul's going to try the following and we'll see if it works. And we're going to measure whether it works by the following criteria. If you do that and then you try to implement that fix, and at the end of the sprint it didn't work, guess what? If your mentality was it's just an experiment, you've learned something, you've gained something. You've taken this problem and you have a solution set, different solutions that might fix the problem, and it didn't work. You've just narrowed down your possible solution set by 1. And every time you run another retrospective and you find another possible solution, you narrow down your solution set by 1 until you find the solution that actually works. Change your mentality. Solutions are not what's supposed to come out of retrospectives. Possible solutions are what's supposed to come out of retrospectives. If you can get your team to think about your retrospectives as experiment finding activities, you'll find engagement increases even if the retrospective isn't leading to the continuous improvement yet. Option number 4, change the focus. How many times have you run a retrospective where the team identifies all sorts of different problems that it's facing, right? You might identify 10 different problems, and you find for each one of those problems 1 or 2 different action items. So you end up with, at the end of the retrospective, 10, 15 different action items on your action plan. You say, cool, end of the retrospective. And you go back home for the weekend, you come back Monday morning, and you look back at your action plan and you think, oh man, how are we ever going to figure out any of these things on this list? It's too overwhelming. The problem with massive action plans is that there's too much. You can't do all of that. Instead, narrow what your focus is in the retrospective to just one problem. Find the most critical problem that your team is facing and find the one thing you want to try to fix it, just one. And when you figured out what that is, cut off the retrospective, end it, say we're done. Then when it comes time to do your sprint, try to implement that one solution, just one. It will focus your team on the most important thing in the retrospective, the most important impediment, the most important problem. And by focusing on that one, you're going to drive engagement in the retrospective because chances are you guys can fix one thing. I have faith you can fix one. If you list out 10 things, I've never seen a team fix 10 things in one sprint. Not possible. So reduce the scope of the retrospective to just the most critical problem that you're facing, and you'll find that your team is more engaged in the process. All right, that's it for today, everybody. That's the 4 ways to drive engagement. Change the facilitator, change the script, change the mentality, change the focus. Hopefully one or more of those will work for you and your team. Again, I'm David at Retrium. Check us out. We make retrospectives super easy and effective for distributed Scrum teams through stickies and markers and flip charts that have been digitized and made for virtual and remote teams. Check us out, see what you think, and maybe it'll make your retros more effective as well. All right, have a good one, everybody.